Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kevin Plays Disc Golf. Today we have a playthrough and course review from Franklin Pierce University in Rindge, New Hampshire. My name is Kevin, and I play disc golf. Filming on course for this video was done on April 19th, 2025 for holes 1 through 10, and September 1st, 2025 for holes 11 through 16. The course originally opened in 2020. About a week after my initial filming and playthrough in April, an additional 6 holes were added to UDisc as I was about to begin editing. At that point, I put the playthrough of this course on hold as I thought it would make more sense to have the playthrough as a single video. To get to the course, if you're coming from the west on Route 119, about 3.5 miles after the intersection of Route 12, you'll see Pearly Lake on your left. Immediately after the lake, take a left onto University Drive. This is the main entrance from Route 119 to Franklin Pierce University. If you're coming from the east on 119 or the south on US Route 202, from the intersection of 119 and 202, go west on 119, and after about 3/4 of a mile, you'll see University Drive on your right and the entrance to the main part of campus. From here, after about 3/4 of a mile, you'll see the baseball field on your right, and you may be able to see the basket of hole 6 on your left. There's a bit of an odd intersection here where you want to go as straight across as you can, which involves a little jog to the right, and then the road goes steeply uphill after the intersection. Continue going as straight as you can through campus until you get to the field house, and if you look ahead to the left, you'll see the tennis courts. You can park either in the parking lot up the road to the left or in the large parking lot straight ahead. The first tee is behind the tennis courts. If you are coming from the north on Route 202, it is slightly shorter to take a right onto Mountain Road immediately after Pool Pond, just before getting to the intersection with Route 119. After about 1.5 miles, you'll see the football and baseball fields on your left. At the next intersection, take a right onto University Drive and start going uphill through the main part of campus and continue until you see the tennis courts. On both days that I filmed, I played the course early on a non-school day, with April 19th being a Saturday and September 1 being Labor Day. With hole 1 through 4 and 8 through 10 meandering through what I would expect to be places on campus that have fairly heavy foot traffic, it's probably best to avoid the middle of the day during school hours when playing this course. I would not expect how this course plays to change much based on seasonality. It had been a particularly wet spring, and if there was no standing water in my April playthrough, there won't ever be any. Maybe the walk between holes 13 and 14 may get a bit mushy, but I doubt that anything on course would cause issues. There is only 1 tee pad and basket per hole. Alcohol and tobacco are prohibited in all public areas of campus. There are trash cans scattered around the first 10 holes, but you should treat holes 11 through 16 as carry in, carry out. Though I am guessing that there are bathrooms scattered among the campus buildings, all of the buildings were locked when I played as I was there on non-school days. I did see a couple of water fountains on campus, and I'm sure there are places to purchase beverages during more popular times. When I played in April, there was a baseball game taking place, and I'm sure you could have picked up snacks from the concessions for the game. I did speak with 2 different security guards during my April playthrough, and they were both very polite and seemed more curious about how my round was going than wondering why I was there. One of them helped me look for a disc I had thrown into the shrubbery near the basket of 3, and this is the reason for my lack of commentary there. I'll have my overall review of the course at the end of the video. Be sure to post your comments as to your thoughts of what looks fun and where you think the problem areas are. Now we'll go to the parking lot by the tennis court to see where to go from there.
Here we are at the parking lot for the disc golf course at Franklin Pierce University. We are parked right by this large building here, white, and if we scan to our left a little bit, we can see what I believe is the 10th basket off in the woods in that cluster of trees right in front of us. So that is where we're going to end up. This upper parking lot is a little bit of a loop here, so we are good, and we are parked right next to the tennis courts. And I believe the first hole, if we walk from the parking lot around to sort of the middle of the back of the parking lot. I do see a bench over there and what appears to be a tee pad. So we'll follow along here. And there's the bench. Tennis courts. It is early on a Saturday morning, so I don't think everybody's up and running yet. But here we are. Here's a bench. And this does appear to be the first tee pad.
Hole 1 is a 453-foot par 4. The first shot is significantly uphill. The hill is steep enough where we can't see the basket from the tee. We do want to stay on the right side of the open field on top of the hill. However, getting up to the elevation where the tee is at and onto that field is kind of the main priority here with the tee shot. And then once we are up on the flat area there, we will be able to see the basket pretty much as soon as we crest the hill in front of us.
On top of the hill, just in front of the tee pad, we can see the basket off in the distance. If we kind of follow this path off in the middle of the field just to the right, the ground does slope down fairly steeply to the right. Looks like if we're short and right of the basket. And we probably don't want to get lost in those woods, so we don't want to cut that too close. If we look to the left, we have the baseball field. And though this doesn't really come into play, I would play the over the fence of the baseball field out of bounds. I am down and to the right of here, but I'm still out of the trees. I do have the couple of little branches that I need to get around, but I should be okay. Let's see how I can do on my second shot. I am right in down the hill, but I believe par should still be in play from there. All right, I went down into this little amphitheater area. I'm just over the first row of seats. So you probably want to make sure there's nobody out here before you do this. But there is nobody here at this point. So again, this is a course where if there are people out and about, you want to be careful. I'm here early enough where even though school is in session and it's a really nice day, students aren't awake yet. And that was painfully short with a bad shot choice. I guess I'm further away than I thought I was. All right, I haven't warmed up my putting yet. Let's see if I can make a just outside of the circle one putt for par. Well, importantly, I did not leave it short, so I will take by 5. So we have the little amphitheater in the background, and we can see that the baskets have the hole numbers on them. To get from the basket of 1 to the tee of 2, if we turn around and we go over towards the middle door of this dorm, we can see the tee pad. These tee pads all appear to be these diamond plate mats. So that's at least a good sign of we know where we should start with. Hole 2 is a 372-foot par 3. The basket is to the right of the light pole for the baseball field. Straightaway open field shot. Just kind of let this one fly. And I still haven't figured out quite how to throw that disc yet. After my terrible drive, I have a long way to go on my second shot here. We have a little bit of a slope here, going to the right of the basket, but it's not too bad. It's not gonna roll away. No chance of losing a disc here. Just maybe mildly annoying if you get a bad roll. Well, that was quite a good bid from however far away that was, probably 70, 75 feet. One thing I will point out is that these baskets are slightly below normal height, but again, bouncing off the top from that far away, I'm pretty happy with. I stepped out that distance at roughly 80 feet, so 80 feet off the top of the cage. I will take it, and we will have our POV putt for 4. So to get from the basket of hole 2 to the tee of hole 3, looking back in the direction of the tee, if we turn around, we want to follow the edge of the baseball field. And in theory, the tee pad is somewhere around here. Okay, so we have these 2 large power outlets, and then the tee pad for hole 3 is just on the other side, right here. Hole 3 is a 368-foot par 3, dogleg left. We cannot see the basket from the tee, but if we can see the kiosk off in the distance there through the fence of the baseball field, it is beyond and to the left of that. So we can see another tree off in the distance. The basket's kind of in line with the tee. Once we get around to the fence corner, we can see exactly where it is. Well, we'll be able to see the basket from there. And at 368, I'm not going to reach the basket from here anyway. All right, so it's a little bit further left of the kiosk than I thought. It's not sure you'll be able to see that at all from the tee, but it's roughly 150 feet to the left and slightly behind of the kiosk. We can see the basket from here. And I've been pulling everything right so far, or pulling everything left so far today, so that was not good. To get from the basket of 3 to the tee of 4, we continue on past the row of bushes that the basket is next to, and we go up this little set of stairs, and just in the middle of this little area here, we have the tee pad for hole 4. Hole 4 is a 548-foot par 4, significant dogleg right. We cannot see the basket from the tee, but basically where it is it is through the chimney to the right and down the hill. Realistically, we should play this with Mando between the flagpole and the tree on the left, just so we don't hit the building. Once we get a few feet past the flagpole, we can see the basket from there. So we'll see how this goes. Finally, a decent shot. I don't think I made it quite to the flagpole, but I didn't hit any buildings, so that's a plus. Here we are looking at the flagpole that we can see from the tee of hole 4. And if we spin to our right a little bit, the basket is just past that sign. We can see significantly a good ways behind, but just to the right of that, we can see the basket from here. It does look like we have some small gardens that we want to try and avoid, and obviously we want to try and avoid the building and the picnic table. So I would kind of play all those as out of bounds. And here we are looking back up at the tee. I am here in 2 after chipping out around the flagpole from the little patio. Just as a side note, there are trash cans on course. I just hit one on my drive. So that's, if you could hear the loud clang, that's what it was. It hit a trash can. Nothing particularly important, didn't do any damage. So here's what I have for my 3rd shot from here, but we can see the basket anyway, so that's good. long. Wow. Well, I guess it's a lot more downhill than I thought. I was way long there. I'm probably about 50 feet past the basket. Let me restate that. I would have been more than 50 feet past the basket had I not clobbered that tree. The tree helped me out a bunch. I've dropped down and have about a little, maybe 35-foot putt for my par 4. So let's see how this works. Well, bogey 5, still not too bad. I'm not unhappy with that. So from here, from the basket of 4 to get to the tee of 5, we actually need to take a left and cross the road here. So this road just goes into one of the parking lots, so not a big deal. And the 5th tee, we're going to want to take a right up here and go into the grass on the opposite side of the road. And right here, we have the tee pad for hole 5. Hole 5 is a 380-foot par 3. As you can see, we are sort of just off the edge of the road, up by where the tee box is. If we move to our left a little bit, off in the distance, we can see the basket just underneath that one large pine tree out there. Now, the reason I'm here is we can't see that pine tree from the tee. But basically the deal is we want to stay left to keep it out of the thick brush. There is a pond off in the distance, but it's a long way to get there. So we'll see how this works. And I threw that straight into the ground. All right, let's see if we can end up with a better second shot here. Had the right idea, but way short. We got about a 80-foot putt for 3 last time from this distance. I hit the basket, so let's see if this works any better. Almost, that had the right line. I'm gonna actually have to make a putt to save 4 here. Not ideal, but I snuck it in for 4, so in is in. So to get from the basket of 5 to the tee of 6, we just look to our left a little bit with the river in the background, or the pond rather. Go down the hill a little bit, and we have the tee for hole 6. Something else to point out, this does appear to be a bit of a nature trail here. So here we have the Pearly Pond Trail and a little bit of a trail system here at Franklin Pierce University. Hole 6 is a 379-foot par 3, so another long one. You cannot see the basket from the tee, but it is directly behind that large wispy tree. Not this first series of birch trees on the right, but just past that to the left a little bit, you have that series of wispy trees and branches. The basket is immediately behind that tree there. So that's pretty far left, but I'll actually have a look at the basket from there. Here we are. Again, I'm pretty happy with this shot. I'd say it went close to 300 feet. And again, where I'm landing is slightly uphill from where I started, but we can see the basket off in the distance beyond sort of the wispy tree there. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with this so far. Let's see if I can get close on my second shot. Pulled that one, so I've got a long par putt. All right, so where I ended up is right next to the tee for 7. You can see the tee for 7 in front of us and the basket of 6 in the background. I'm actually just to the right of here, so I'm going to be going over the tee pad of 7 on what'll be my 3rd shot from here. One thing to note is It is very steeply downhill as we're looking at it from this view behind the basket. So roll away is a big possibility here. So I'm going to go with not my pixel, but with something that hopefully will be have a less tendency to roll away. That was weak, but no roll away. Hole 7 is a 429-foot par 4, significantly uphill. One thing to note is there is some long grass that I believe is marshy area just to the left of the trees that we kind of want to go straight over ideally. It's probably quite marshy right now, but it has been very wet spring. So if you come here in a month or two, say late spring, early summer, or any time after that, my guess is that's going to be dry. And even as it is now, though it's marsh, I'm not concerned about losing a disc in there. So we'll see if I can make this again. 429 is it's a short par 4 with it being this open, but it is significantly uphill as well. And I popped that straight up into the air. That was not good. Here's the marsh area. It's just wet and squishy. There's no actual water here, so zero chance of losing a disc in this stuff. It's just not pleasant to walk through. All right, I'm really pinched off behind these trees, so as long as I can get myself a reasonable approach, just sort of getting out and up and having a shot at par is what I'm looking for here. I had about an 8-inch high gap to make it out of there, which I made it through, so that's about as good as I could have hoped for from where I was. A couple things to note about the green here. There's a parking lot just at the top of the crest of that hill, but that hill is fairly steep and does make a decent backstop, though you might get a roll away if you hit the basket hard enough. It'll be going back down the way we came up, and the slope around the basket is shallow enough where I don't see you getting a huge roll away unless you get super unlucky. So I'll see what I can do for my par putt here. Right on line, just a little short. POV for 5. So now to get from the basket of 7 to the tee for 8. Here again, we are looking back down at the hill, off towards that yellow building. We need to turn around and go back past the corner of this parking lot here. And right on the other side here, we have the tee pad for hole 8. And yeah, here's the tee pad for hole 8. Hole 8 is a 308-foot par 3. It is significantly uphill. We can see the basket from the tee barely. It's on, if we see the line of 3 trees, the basket is just to the right and sort of behind those. Just to keep it away from this building on the right, I'm going to play those trees as, have to go left of the first tree as a mando. And we'll see how this works. One other thing that you'll notice about this hole is that we are crossing one of the primary roads here, so we just want to make sure to watch out for traffic before we throw on this one as well. And I put that one straight up into the air. From here we can see we kind of want to be up on the higher side of that hill anyway, so I'm low. Again, you want to be further left than I am, and again, more distance, but further left would be more ideal. Well, I can see the basket from there. Just to note here, the basket of 8, there's about 30 feet past the basket, leads you through the fence into the parking lot. I would play that as OB. And from the basket of 8, if we take a right, we have the tee pad for 9. Hole 9 is a 285-foot par 3 uphill, so it's not the basket for 8 that we can see right in front of us, but further off in the field up yonder, we can see in the middle of that field is another basket, and that is the hole 9 basket. Well, that is way right. All right, with our back to the tee for hole 9, if we look a little bit past it, we can see this stairs and the Monadnock building to our right. I've done some searching around. I have not been able to find where the tee pad is for hole 10, but in theory, the tee pad should be somewhere right over here, at least according to UDisc. So I'm gonna play hole 10 from here-ish, and we'll see how that works. Actually, does this look like a tee pad over here? Okay, yeah, here's a spot where it looks like there used to be a tee pad at one point, and now it is missing. So I'm going to play from this spot here. UDisc lists hole 10 as a 285-foot par 3. It is flat. There is no marked tee pad, so I'm not sure exactly where we're supposed to play. I'm kind of in a general area where it looks like there might have been a tee pad at one time. We can see the basket in the middle of the cluster of 3 trees. This is a newer basket. It looks like it's the white one that I pointed out in the intro, so it's heading back there. Again, as you probably just saw, this is an active road that we're crossing, so we'll see what we can do from here. That's right of where I want to be, but playable. Here we are at the green for hole 10. As we can see, the basket is protected by 3 rather large trees. We'll see if we can make a miracle birdie for here to end the round. Nope, but drop in for 3 will be fine. So I got my par putt to end the round. Now, this right here is the building that we started next to. So I pointed out this basket from the original parking lot when we started, and right behind us is the parking lot that we began at. Here we are on September 1st, 2025. About a week after playing this course initially, before I had started recording, I discovered they added 6 new holes. So from the basket of 10 to get to the tee for hole 11, there we have the parking lot in front of us. If we turn to our right, we have this other large parking lot off in the distance next to the Dr. Arthur and Martha Pappas Health Science and Athletic Training Center. There is a small road that goes just to the left of the building. So that is the road we want to go down. We do want to be a little bit careful about traffic. I'm here fairly early on a non-school day, so there aren't too many people out and about, but more than none. And we just follow down this road a little bit. Alternatively, you can also park in this large parking lot on the left if you're going to be playing the full 16 holes, as this, I believe, is a little bit closer to hole 16 after we are done with the round. And just after this section where it's stops mode, there's a large rock right there. So just after that, where we stop the mowing, if we look to our right, let's see if we can see it from here, down in the distance, we have the basket for hole 11. UDisc lists hole 11 is a 145-foot par 3. It is very steeply downhill, so this is just a little chip shot. It looks like the brush long is pretty thick, so this is going to require a pretty precise shot to get there. Again, not that difficult of a hole, just the idea is get down there and miss the trees. There is no tee box for this, so I'm just playing this off the pavement and using the road as the tee box for this hole. So yeah, even that, a lightly thrown putter forehand, even that was a little bit long. It should still be within circle one, and I should have a birdie putt from there. We can see the ferns and trees around the green. Again, with a hole this short, it'd be nice if the ferns were cleared up, but having these guardian trees in a small green is very heavily justified. I'm just in the brush on the other side, so not too bad. See if I can make a birdie. There were enough of those thin branches in the way, not sure how well they'll show up on camera, but I did not have a straight shot to the basket, so I will take my 3. At the basket of 11, with our back to the tee, if we turn to our right, we have a nice little path here, and we have a red arrow pointing us in the right direction. Now, these holes are relatively new, so I'm expecting that over time they will clean up a little bit, but we'll see how that works out. And we have a nice little bridge to cross over. If we turn to our right, once this opens up, we have the tee pad for hole 12 right here. U-discless hole 12 is a 402-foot par 4, dogleg left, right at the end, and uphill. We cannot see the basket from the tee. However, if we go to the top of the crest straight ahead, we want to go up to about there, then take about a 45-degree jog to the left. The idea is we kind of want to aim for that one lone birch tree way off in the distance. It takes the bend to the left before that, and there are a cluster of 3 more birch trees on the left that you can't really see from here, but once we get a little ways up the fairway, we will be able to see them a little bit better. Again, the idea is just try and keep it on this narrow fairway and get up to the crest of the hill. And if we can get to the crest of the hill, we'll actually have a look at the basket from there. Well, the good news is that cluster of trees, it's not particularly thick, and that is pretty much directly in the direction of the basket. Here we are at the fairway next to the large rock. This is just before I went into the trees. If we look up past this, there's a little bit of a downslope that gets you into some yucky brush and stuff, so you don't want to go down there. It may result in a long search for a disc, but I don't think you're going to lose any discs down there. I don't think there's any water down there, at least this time of year. If we look a little further up the fairway, there's the cluster of trees I hit. I did not go down. I'm sort of in the middle of that there. And if we move out to the right, we can see we have the cluster of trees. We have the cluster of birch trees. There's one a little bit shorter than the cluster of 3. The path to the basket goes between that first short birch tree and the cluster of 3 birch trees later. So even from here, this is more of a placement shot. If I can get it up in that area, that's what I'm looking for. And again, from here, we can see that birch tree that we mentioned off the tee. That is quite a bit beyond where we want to go. And that should be good enough up there where I can see the basket from where I am. The mowed part of this fairway is only about 12 to 15 feet wide, so this is definitely one where placement and accuracy is more important than distance. As you can tell from my tee shot, would have had a much easier shot up to the basket to get closer. Here, I'm still probably within 50 feet of the basket after my second shot. But you can see we do have quite a few trees in the way. I'm a little bit ahead and to the right of here. I think you can see the disc on the screen, but the basket we can now see tucked in behind the birch trees on the left side. Again, the idea here is just pick a path to get through the trees and try and get to the basket. We'll walk up here a little further and we can see how many guardian trees there are here. So the idea again here is just pick something that you can get past those trees. There really isn't much in the way of gaps. So even from where I was, I feel fortunate that I did not hit any of these guardian trees to start off with. And putt for par. Not bad for that. With only one shot in the trees and scramble from there, I'm quite happy with the par. To get from the basket of 12 to the tee for 13, if we go back up to the path that we followed for the fairway of hole 12 and take a left, this is a little bit of a walk to get there. We can just follow this path. And right up here in the middle of the path, we have a rubber tee pad. That is our tee for hole 13. You disc hole 13 as a 314-foot par 3, dogleg right, slightly uphill. We cannot see the basket from the tee, but if we follow the main mowed path up until that really thick bush on the left side of the fairway, that's where it takes about a 45-degree bend to get to the basket. It is clear and mowed open around the basket, so it is possible to get there. As far as danger here goes, you can see the weeds are pretty thick on both sides, but they do thin out in places, so we just kind of want to watch where our disc ends up going. And if we go off to the left, we do have some vertical drop off, but again, it's not too bad, and the weeds do thin out the further left you go. So again, the hope here would be just make sure you kind of watch where the disc goes, and hopefully you don't end up too far into the deep stuff. Well, bad news, I kept it low and threw it into the ground. The good news is it's in the fairway. Here we're up just in front of that large cluster of trees, and we can see the little bend that we have. Again, the reeds do get fairly thick on this second shot after it takes the major bend. Something else I'll point out is that there are some various pokey stabby bushes along the sides here, so you'll just want to be careful of those. I'm not too far into those, but I think I can stand in the fairway and get it there. So we'll see how this works out. One other thing that is a little bit difficult to see from here is that the mowed area does open up quite a bit once you get to within circle 1 of the basket. So if you're within circle 1, that's okay. And with the steep hill just behind the basket, you really can't go too far along without ending kind of right back up where we started. Well, I've got a very makeable par putt. Here at the green, we can see how much it does open up right in front of the basket and how steep that wall is behind it. So there's no way you're going too high to go up over that wall. And it is pretty much straight up and down. So if you hit that, you're gonna roll back within a couple feet of the basket. And I am pretty happy with a 3 there. To get from the basket of 13 to the tee for 14, if we continue past the basket on this path, and even though it's not particularly obvious where we're going. There's really only one way through any of this stuff that it's possible to go, so it makes route finding relatively easy. And here we have some info on the hurricane of 1938. Thousands of white pines were sunk in ponds across the Monadnock region. If you'd like to take a little gander at that, you can pause the video. So from the hurricane of 1938 marker, if we look back to our left past where we came from, there's a small trail here that goes down. We do want to take this path going down. So follow these steps. And again, this is an area where this is all pretty much a brand new section of the course. So I imagine that over time, this trail will become more obvious. And can continue over here. And here we have a little bridge section that we can cross. And now it has been fairly dry here recently, but we do, I imagine that if it's particularly wet, this could get quite marshy. And it appears there is no T-pad here, but UDisc has the T-pad listed just on the other side of this bridge, right about where this marker for the nurse logs is. And we can take a look at the nurse logs. I'm actually going to be playing a little bit further back, but since there is no T marked, it's just kind of a pick a spot and see what you can do from there. UDisc lists hole 14 is a 172-foot par 3. It is significantly uphill. I'm a little bit ahead and to the right of where I'm going to be playing this tee shot from, because from right here we can see the basket sort of up on top of the hill here. This is just kind of pick a path through the brush and see how far up the hill you can get it and see if we can get it close. So again, we are just short of the little nurse logs informational post, and we'll see how this works out. Well, hit a tree, but rolled back into an area where I have a clear shot at the basket. Again, here walking up the fairway, we can see there are a whole bunch of branches on these pine trees that are dead, that are lower. A lot of these have already been cleared out, so I don't know if more are in the process of being cleared out. I imagine some will clear themselves out after being hit by discs. But we are a little bit to the left of what is the main walking trail. And here we are. There are several guardian trees right around the basket. So again, this is pick one and hope you make it through there. But here again, I'm only 40-50 feet out. So this is very runnable for a potential birdie. A little short, but it hit the base of the basket and stayed there. So drop in 3. To get from the basket of 14 to the tee for 15, there are a couple different paths and it's not obvious which one to take, but we want to take the one between the basket and the barred owls poster here. So hidden amongst the hemlocks, and follow the path that goes between the two of those. So this path right here. So there's one that turns sharper right that goes down to the road. We do not want that one. And there's one that goes left. We do not want that one. We want the one that sort of bears right behind the basket. And we follow this up a little further. And we have the and continuing on a little bit further here. Just after the sugar maple bark diseases informational sign, there's a little rock wall there, and we want to take a left just after the rock wall and follow this path here. So we are going off the main path, a little bit away from the road, and continue uphill here. Here we have another one of the red arrows. And then at the top of this hill, we have a gravel path, and though there is no T-pad listed, the T is going to be somewhere right around the start of this gravel path. Udiscless hole 15 is a 322-foot par 4. So where the camera is just off the road to the left, directly across from an informational sign that's on the other side of the road. There is no T here, but UDisc has the T listed basically in the road, perpendicular to where that sign is. So when we first see the road, get on the road, take a left and go up maybe 20 or 30 feet, and that's where it is. So from here, we can see the basket. From the road, you cannot. It is significantly uphill, but again, fairly self-explanatory. Keep the disc in the road. It looks like the bank drops off fairly steeply past the road to the left, so we would rather miss right or stay on the road. But again, the idea here is just follow the road, see how far up there we can get it, and hopefully have a shot at a birdie on this one. I'm off in the woods on the right, which is not great, but not awful. Here we can see the woods on the right are not particularly dense, and it looks like there's been more clearing out that's happened there. I'm going to have an obstructed shot for my next shot, but I should be able to get at least up to the edge of the road. Well, that was a bit of an early release, and somehow I still missed all the trees, so I think I may have a birdie putt from where I am. Here's my birdie attempt from about 40 feet. It's not clear. There are some overhanging branches, so makes things a little bit more interesting. And I'm never going to complain about a drop in for par. To get from the basket of 15 to the tee for 16, we continue on past the basket and follow this path. And this is another one where there is no well-defined tee, but we can see the basket walking up the fairway. Udiscless hole 16 is a 147-foot par 3, straight ahead. The tee, although there is not one laid out, is basically in the area of this little grassy patch on the right, so that's where I'm going to play it from. I think that made it all the way through the bushes on the left, so I should have a birdie putt from there. And so here we are near the basket. Those are the bushes that I went through. You can see that it does open up quite a bit behind those bushes near the basket. And let's see if I can make a putt. Hooray for the birdie. That is hole 16, which is currently where the course ends. It does look like there is the possibility of, if we look a little bit further down, there are some open woods, so there is the possibility of opening up a couple more holes here. But for right now, to get back out, we do need to be a little bit careful, because the best way out is to walk back up the fairway of 16, and then it's going to be continue back up the fairway of 15 along that gravel path, and then follow the roads out to where we parked originally. There may be a little shortcut back past the basket of 14 out to the road as well, but following the gravel path gets you to the road sooner. When we get to the road, we want to take a right. Okay, there are stairs going around here, so that's good. And take a right going down the road. When we get to the intersection in the road, we are going to want to take a right, and that is most likely the road that we drove in on. And if we want to play some more, if we go straight, we can go back to the tee of where I believe the tee of hole 8 was, and play 8, 9, and 10 again if we would like. Follow this road through the main admission sign. Alternatively, we could either go straight up that road that we drove in on, or we can take a left and go between these buildings, which, as long as nobody's playing disc golf and you're careful, is a nicer walk. We have the basket for 8. And there's the basket for 9. And here we have the general area of the tee for hole 10. There is still no tee pad here for hole 10. And we have the basket for 10 and the upper parking lot. And to our right, the main parking lot.
During my September playthrough, it did appear that holes 11 through 16 were still in the early stages of being cleaned up and finished. That section of the course will benefit greatly from more maintenance to push the brush back and remove some of the dead branches from trees. The thumbnail for this course was taken from the approach to hole 8. I feel this gives a good indication of the nature of half of the holes on this course, wandering through some of the main parts of campus, which is unusual for most disc golf courses. Picking a favorite hole for this course is challenging, as there are 3 completely different types of holes on this course. There are some open field holes, there are some holes around man-made structures, and there are holes in the woods. It's like trying to determine which is better, Macintosh apples, Abyssal Vacuum Cleaner, or Needful Things by Stephen King. As a result, I'm going to pick hole 4, mostly because of the novelty of merging the drive, playing around buildings, and the second shot being an open downhill throw. This hole does have its issues though, which I will get into later. My least favorite hole is similarly challenging to pick out, but I'm going to go with hole 13 just due to the lost disc potential as the hole currently plays. For you triskaidekaphobics out there, this isn't going to help you quell your fears. This could be a good hole, but in the condition that I played it, the fairway is too narrow and the brush on both sides is too thick, and it gets more problematic the further down the fairway that you get, especially after the right-hand bend in the fairway where you lose sight of the disc and can't see exactly where it goes into the brush. The first and last holes are critical for introducing the course and leaving the last impression at the end of the round. Hole 1 does a good job of setting the tone, and it is a good hole. After the tee shot getting up onto the field, this is a wide open throw to the basket, though there is a small bit of danger if you go too far right. I also imagine that if I played during a busier time, there would be concerns for people walking across campus that needed to be taken into account. Hole 16 is a bit of a whimper to end the round, and though it does feel good to end the round with a birdie, if you don't birdie here, it doesn't feel good, and you have a very long walk to reflect on how the round ended to get back to your car or dorm. I really hope that there are plans to make this a full 18-hole course and that 2 more holes are added through the woods, possibly in combination with lengthening hole 16 to bring the course back to the parking lot. A long walk to the parking lot would feel a lot shorter if there were 2 more holes to play along the way. Course navigation was quite difficult, and the course would have been very difficult to follow without UDisc. It's bad enough that it is quite possible that holes 11 through 16 were playable when I first played in April, but at that time they were not on UDisc and there was no indication that they existed. Navigating this course was like solving a diagramless crossword puzzle. The clues are all there, but you have to figure out what the answers are before you can really start putting together where everything is supposed to go. With the exception of hole 13 that I mentioned earlier, and to a lesser extent hole 12, this course is very safe for discs. For the most part, you're more likely to either see someone else pick up your disc or to watch it get run over by a car than to outright lose one. Psychologically, my low throw on the 13 tee may have been due in part to not wanting to pop it up and have it go deep into the brush on the right, but I did use an MVP trail, which would have been the disc I would have used if losing the disc was not a concern. The tee pads that exist were basically rubberized mats, and though they are not the best quality tee pads, once you realize that is what they are, there's no doubt that is where you're supposed to start from, and they are a small step up over the ground beneath them. That is until you get to hole 10, where there's suddenly no tee pad to be found. Though I did not play a full round in September, I did spend a little time looking for a tee pad on hole 10, and it still did not exist. Putting these on the holes that do not currently have them, 10, 11, 14, 15, and 16, would help the consistency and flow of the course. Signage would go a long way to improving this course. The only markings of any kind are the hole numbers on the baskets. Even something as basic as putting the hole number and an arrow in the direction of the basket on the rubberized mats and a next tee marker of some sort on the baskets would be a huge help. UDisc is mostly accurate for this course, but attempting to play this course for the first time without UDisc would be much more difficult, as it is not totally obvious that the tee pad for hole 1 is in fact a tee pad without the UDisc GPS verification that you are in the correct spot for the hole 1 tee. There are 2 different types of baskets on this course. Holes 1 through 9 are DGA Mach 5 baskets, and holes 10 through 16 are dynamic disc baskets. Both are fine, though painting the Mach 5 baskets a brighter color would make them easier to see. Though they are easier to see in person than on camera, it would make them easier to find from a distance on holes 3 through 8. As far as the quality of them, they both seem fine. The target audience for this course does appear to be Franklin Pierce University students, and it does a good job with that. This course is a bit on the long side for a beginner course, but there is very little danger of losing discs, and there's enough variety to practice a variety of play styles. If I lived on campus, I would play this course regularly, and with the holes added last spring, it does appear that there is an active disc golf community on campus. The biggest issue that I foresee with this course is one I went out of my way to avoid. Large portions of this course may either be very slow to play or unplayable depending on the time of day and how nice it is outside. The field that holes 1 and 2 are in are likely to have students on it on a nice afternoon. The holes around the main walkways of 3 and 4 are likely busy during school hours, as are the walkways around holes 8 through 10. Though these areas of the course are safe for discs, flying discs are not safe for pedestrians. My overall course rating is that I would be willing to drive 1 hour out of my way to play this course for the first time and 1/2 hour to play it again, provided that you are willing to play at times that college students are unlikely to be out and about. I would avoid afternoons when students are on campus unless you're expecting to play only holes 5 through 7 and 11 through 16. I will keep an eye on this course for updates, especially if holes 11 and higher are updated, but I don't expect to go there and play a full round again. As it happens, US Route 202 is the road that I take to get to many of the courses in north central Massachusetts, so it's not far out of my way to stop there if there is a reason to do so. That said, that is a big issue with this course, that it's on the way to something better, most notably Stony Brook, which is 8 miles west of here on Route 119. Like, share, and subscribe. Check out my other video linked here, or the playlist of my disc golf courses of Vermont and New Hampshire linked in the description. Hopefully your playthrough of this course doesn't result in piercing screams from Franklin Pierce University students being hit with a Paige Pierce passion.